He doesn't have the ball. And again, like Pat would have got vital scores for Offaly. You know, the All-Ireland final in '81, the scores he got. Offaly were up against a very strong Galway team that year. And Pat got a goal, you know, in the first half. I suppose just to keep Offaly in it at that time, because the fear there was with the strength of the Galway side that they'd race away with the game.
Pat Carlow,
He had the guts to go for the goal as well, and you know, it paid off for Offaly that day. I met Pat. I was friendly with a nephew of his, and we went visiting in the house, especially maybe when I was 9 or 10, and that was, you know, at that time it was like looking up to a god. You know, it was a great. You'd be nervous when you go to see a guy like that because he was such a big name at the time.
And the referee's whistle has gone, and the All-Ireland final of '85 has been won by the Midlanders of Offaly.
We're very proud to be here today as champions, because it means that we were able to do so without the services of one of Offaly's greatest ever hurlers. He's in hospital today. Pat Carroll will be with you soon.
Pat had just got sick around that time, or shortly before that. I think maybe the semi-final could have been his last game, and I'm sure on the day, you know, I gave him a bit of a motivation to go on and maybe put in that extra effort to win it for Pat. When he passed away, I suppose in 1986, the 16th of March, you know, it was the biggest, probably one of the biggest funerals ever in Offaly, and he was held with huge regard. He always gave no less than 100% any time he represented Offaly in the green, white and gold.
Now, isn't that fantastic? Great choice by Johnny Dooley. Pat Carroll truly was an Offaly legend, and of course Pat's son Brian is Offaly captain this year. They play Antrim next weekend. Well, hurling's race for the Liam McCarthy actually got underway in Portlaoise last night when Laois took on Carlow in Leinster's preliminary round for the right to take on Dublin. Reporting on this one, John Kenny.
Carlow were back in the Leinster Championship for the first time in 6 years and came into Saturday night's game in Portlaoise in a confident mood after a decent league campaign, facing a Laois side who'd beat Carlow by 6 points in the Division 2 game last month. Dublin manager Anthony Daly amongst the crowd for the opening game of the Leinster Hurling Championship. And it was Carlow who were on the scoreboard first with a brace of points from left half forward Craig Doyle, opening up a 2-point lead. Laois hit back, and a 65 by Matthew Whelan and a second point by full forward Tommy Fitzgerald levelled up the contest. Both sides had chances over the remaining minutes of the half, and it was the Barrowsiders who edged into a 3-point lead coming up to half-time, courtesy of Dennis Murphy's free. Laois, though, scored 2 late points to reduce the margin to a single point at the half. Whelan's long-range score meant that Carlow went to the break, leading by 7 points to 6. Laois, however, took the game by the scruff of the neck in the early part of the second half, and Joe Fitzpatrick in particular helped his side into the lead for the first time with a goal and 3 to wrest the game away from Carlow. Leading by 6 points, Laois had a great chance to extend that advantage, but Willie Hyland's rather tame penalty was saved on the line by the Carlow defence. Carlow themselves missed a penalty when the goalkeeper Frank Foley smashed his shot off the Laois crossbar. In the end, it was Laois who ran out deserving 6-point winners as Carlow's heads dropped. The final score deservedly went to man of the match Fitzpatrick as Laois eased their way into the Leinster semi-final. Carlow entered the game with 14 players as Owen Costello was sent off late on. A far tougher contest awaits as it's Dublin the last 4 for Laois as they ran out winners in Portlaoise, 113 to Carlow's 10 points.
Carlow, they're a progressing team, and they're improving the whole time, and they gave us a fair fight there now the first half. So as I said, we just have to put our heads down and grind out a result.
You know, my immediate thoughts are still going back to our scoring rate. Laois 113. I mean, that's beatable in any championship game, 70 minutes, but 10 points isn't going to win you any game whatsoever.
Interesting. Okay, well, last week's GA coverage, I suppose, was dominated by all the talk of the changing of the hand pass rule. Now, we heard it wasn't easy for players to adapt, but let's not forget that it wasn't easy for referees to adapt either. So, what happened today?
Must have pulled up for hand passes maybe 6, 7, 8 times at least, and the problem was that a lot of them looked legitimate. Now, the referee was Derek Fahey, I should say. He got a lot of the calls correct as well, and hopefully we'll get a chance to reflect on that. But the frustration levels among the players was very high, and it led actually to yellow cards for dissent just before half-time. I think Kieran McManus caught one, picked up one going in, and we've talked about yellow cards for our dangerous status, but in each case here, they look to me to be perfect striking actions. Now the problem, of course, is that they're saying that the ball has been propelled. Now, that to me looks like an absolute foul, but Pat McEnany has a different attitude, I think.
Pat McEnany has tended to act independently of the rule book at times, you know, and it's supposed to be described as common sense, but certainly, you know, if you're being absolutely strict about it, some of these were questionable hand passes under the new regulation as well, and it's very, very hard. I think it's a question of interpretation. Derek Fahey obviously decided to send a message out today, okay, if you want me to referee a particular way, this is the way I'm going to do it, and this is the type of game you're going to have. Pat McEnany decided that he was going to leave it all go. I would imagine he saw the same indiscretions as Derek Fahey did below in Portlaoise, and even here as well, you know, it's just causing so much confusion at this stage.
Is this a foul? This is loud and
I believe it is. Watch his left hand. It's directing the ball and it's propelling the ball.
I didn't think it was.
Isn't this the problem? Yeah. This is the problem. So maybe we're going to attempt to throw a little bit of light on it rather than the heat that's been thrown on it all week. Something that has happened during the week is people now realise, I think for the first time, okay, there are two passes. There's the open hand and the closed hand, the so-called fist. The fist pass hasn't changed. It's the exact same as since we were children. You can hit it underhand, overhand, sideways if I wanted to pass it to Oisín, or over to Dara. The key, off the holding hand, there must be a discernible, a definite, a visible one, they actually say in the rule book, striking action. So that's fine, it hasn't changed. But this week we've learned, in fact, that the Connacht motion, to get away with throwing, they've put in the underhand striking action, but that applies only to the open hand pass. So you cannot now do the old Brian Mullins one, we call it that, because it's not underhand. Yeah. That's the only one that's allowed when the ball is held like that. But I should add, there are two other ones. If you had it in the single hand, if I throw it up and hit an underhand, that's fine. Or I could have it on the holding hand, throw it up and watch my underhand strike again. Okay, so what they're trying to get rid of is this one. You're throwing it with the left and giving it a flick at the end, and that is obviously a foul. I think that's, I would argue Owen Mulligan's one was like that. He directed it with the propelling hand and gave it a flick at the end to put it in the way of Kevin Hughes. Likewise, that very last goal we viewed, you have a different opinion on it, but I would suggest, I think it was Shane Lennon that...
It was, well, I thought he did the second last one that you said.
Yeah, but he's using his holding hand to give direction and propulsion to the ball, and he's throwing it more or less like that.
Yeah, but you look at the example of Niall McNamee coming in along the end line there today. His jersey's been pulled, he's fallen to the ground. Now, if he was a rugby player, obviously just throw it. But there was a definite striking action, albeit with the open hand. Yeah. And he was a man under pressure, and there was a striking action, and he was blown for that.
Yeah, that's the difficulty when you're falling to the ground. It's going to be very hard to get rid of the ball.
But Oisín, at the match you were at now, Pat McEnany didn't blow very often for it at all. Derek Fahey did, and Derek Fahey got a lot of stick for it from the crowd. But Derek Fahey did what he was told to do. Now,
yeah, but some of his he did. I accept that absolutely. But remember, in the interpretation or the application of the rule, like we've proved tonight, I think, and everybody at the match would say he got a lot of them wrong.
Right.
For everyone he got right, he got one wrong. You know, where there's clear striking underhand action, especially with the fist pass. It's almost impossible to throw the ball with the fist pass. Almost impossible. I mean, I don't know what you'd want to be doing with your holding hand to actually end up throwing it.
I suppose to the letter of the law, you know, Derek Fahey also, in fairness to him, got a lot right.
He did. He got the goal call at the end, right?
And I suppose, you know, the pressure that referees are under, there's referees, assessors at every match. And I suppose if he wants another match, you must call these things. Yeah. Whereas Pat McEnany seemed to take a slightly different attitude to it. It was pure common sense. And unless it was actually a throw, or as Kevin said, a flick, you know, he didn't blow it up, he just let it go, and it made for a better game now today, to be honest.
But Kevin, I was wondering now, and give us your view on this, because I was talking to Dara about it during the match today, and I was wondering, well, why did he give a free there rather than...
Which one?
Well, in a few instances, and I'll tell you why, when the holding hand, I was wondering, is it because the holding hand is going forward?
Correct.
And does that make it look like
it's
throw?
It's propelling the ball to a certain degree.
It's a dynamic game, and both hands tend to be moving, and, you know...
I agree with you, but that's the rule is that, you know, the holding hand can... What is one to do?
Show what I'm talking about. You know...
Yeah, I would say like that. Essentially, you're propelling it.
Yeah. So this hand is moving, and that, so therefore it can look like a throw or whatever.
Correct.
Yeah. But
the nature of the pass...
Should this change have come through Congress?
Well, there was a problem with Congress. The Connacht motion is a good motion. It's a very clear motion. I don't see any big problem for it, for referees. But the problem is...
I can show you 2 weeks of them.
Well, OK, it's a fair point. But the real problem was that it passed at Congress 4 weeks before we started our championship. Now, the clever thing would have been pass it in April at the Congress and start it next January the 1st for the provincial leagues and the National League. And now everybody is well adapted to it when it comes in May 2011, if that's what we wanted to do. But of course, this 5-year bloody rule, you know, for changing rules is in as well, tying everybody's hands.
What, as a recent player now, what do you make of it, Oisín?
I just think for a player going past you at speed, that's where the problems are created, because there's no way you can get that motion. It's a flick or it's a palming it into somebody's hands.
If you're a full forward and you're collecting a ball to your feet, right at low, and you're just collecting it right at your feet, and there's a centre forward coming in at pace, all that's in your head is soft hands, and you
just to flick it up to
strike it with soft hands and just give it and pop the pass.
Dara, wait until a team is 2 points down, and this happens in the last minute of a major match, and there's going to be murder, because
will a referee blow it in your view?
He'd want to have serious convictions if he's going to do it, and the add-on going forward, to use that horrible expression, is that we're going to have less and less goals, because in traffic where you can't use these soft hands, you won't create the goal chance, because the fist pass won't open up a defence. Final
word, Oisín. I saw it work reasonably well at a club championship game last weekend in Dublin, where it wasn't blown up. Is that because it's a slower pace than inter-county level?
Possibly, but also players are being coached now to totally exaggerate the movement, because there's a fear out there from players that they're going to get blown up if it's anything but a clear striking motion, and that's
clear striking motion is a total luxury, because your hand is often held as you're trying to pass it, so you only get a stabbing attempt at it.
And that's the key factor, the hand being held. OK, well, a very big weekend lies ahead of us, because next Saturday Galway face Wexford in Nolan Park, and Michael will bring you live coverage from 6:30 on the Saturday. Then on Sunday, Donegal play down at 2 o'clock in the Ulster Football Championship, and then Cork and Tipperary explode onto Páirc Uí Chaoimh at 4. We're live on RT2 from 1:30, and we'll have the best from all of those matches and a lot more besides for you next Sunday evening at 9:30, as always, here on RT2. Pride of Place, of course, will be going to events down by the Lee. Yeah, lots to look forward to next Sunday. That's about it for a busy Sunday night, though. So my thanks to Kevin, Dara, and especially to Oisín for joining us. Until next Sunday, from all of the team here, bye-bye.